Right. So this is
You recording
chat.
now?
Yes, it's recording. This is the chat.
This is a chat.
Welcome to our chat.
We'll see it goes in which direction goes. Yesterday we end up talking about so many things.
For like an hour.
Yeah. So just if people know that we have apparently this chat as well. They have its own life and sometimes becomes backstage by its own. Um, yeah.
No, it's good that we
I don't
don't
know what
publish
you have to
everything.
say. What do you have to say about the chat?
I don't know. It becomes like a meta chat about the chat.
Yeah, but it was very nice, like yesterday, to be honest, like I really enjoyed the conversation with you, like basically it was a space where I hear you speaking, from deep you things.
Yeah.
And then at the same time was like a space where I could just well express some things, like just personal things.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
feel that felt
it's
nice. That felt very nice.
yeah, it's also important because when we do this like chat for the uploading, it's like we have to choose the words sometimes. I mean, I know that
Mm.
there are not many
Or the
viewers
names, or the names.
because we don't know, we never know where if there's like invisible guest.
Well, at least in Zoom, no. At least in Zoom, we have this control now. In Jitsu,
Exactly.
was very in Jitsu was sometimes this unexpected guest.
Yeah, that's funny. Anyways.
Yeah. Maybe we can start like from yeah. So I read this when you record this interview that you share with me. I share by the way in my wall, my Facebook wall.
Oh, okay, cool. I think it's officially published this week, so I think it's okay.
Ah, okay.
No, no,
But
I
it
think it's
when was
okay.
recorded?
I actually don't remember, but in the interview, I think I said something about I do something next year, so I think it was in December.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
it's been a while, actually.
It was nice. I like I mean, the rest of the things that you were speaking, so they were not new to me. I thought it might be interested that
Right.
summarize for somebody else if you want to check kind of the language that we often use in different ways. But one thing what you said, the technology always fails. I thought like, ah, yeah, that's nice. It's so true. And it's so actually it's so true that we got used to. Yeah, I remember the first times, I mean, and still because I can see your face of frustration and you can see my face of frustration, which happens very often. I don't know, I think if we use an AI to recognize, face recognition, how often during the time are we putting this face of like worrying, or being sad or angry? I think will be more than 70% of the time,
It could be.
which is very funny. But at the same time, you mentioned like at some point at the end, when we are like reaching out, it's just like whatever, and then just we go full on happy dancing, and that's always catching up at the end, like whatever. And that's funny
Yeah.
how it manifests. Yeah.
And the more we get like frustrated, this dancing becomes more something.
Hmm.
Well, I don't. I shouldn't say we have to suffer to enjoy dancing, but there is something about it.
So stoicos, like super stoic. They're like so dramatic by nature. Like, oh my God, it's not working. The internet is not working.
But that was basically what happened at Node. Not the internet, but like the hubs was really not working as we expected, and although we did a stage design.
Yeah, because we have this third ghost user to create the stage for us.
Yeah. Anyways, should we talk about the book, or are we done with the book from the
No, no, no. I
conversation
would like,
yesterday?
I would like to you to talk about this book. I mean, what you thought. You said, yeah. I would like you to. Maybe we can
Do you
start there.
wanna do you wanna introduce a bit about the background, or
Yeah.
we
So
just talk about
maybe
it?
so it's about this book written by, collected by, or edited or collected somehow, proposed by Martin Spamberg. It's called Movement Research, and it's the second part is of in towards this new dance in a way, like or new approach or on dance.
And it's actually part
And
of like the work
it's the
with
second part
movement
because
research.
the first one is called Dance 2.0, or post is called Post Dance 2.0, which is the same. Martin invites people, create some essays, and he make a curatorial process where he just put it as a book.
And this movement
Uh,
research title is also related to that thing in, is it in New York? Movement
yes, in
research?
New York, but no, I don't think so. Although, because for me it was tricky as well. I don't know actually in terms of appropriation of titles or something, because I was searching in internet at some point when I wanted to have this in PDF, because I was traveling and I wanted to read something, and then I found out that Martin has been working sometimes to greet them for the movement research in New York. So I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't really like checked the. Yeah, it's there. So yeah, that's the font of the movement research.
Ah, yeah.
So it should be commissioned somehow.
Yeah. I think it was
Um,
written in the preface or something. I don't know, but maybe I
It says Creative Commons
misunderstood.
Attribution, editing matter is supported by blah, designing blah, this book is supported by the Swedish blah, 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 made possible with support of blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
I think it's just all this compile of people, organizations, among those PAF, who allow and somehow to make possible the book to become alive and be. And what is interesting as well is like this book you cannot buy, and it was the same idea with the post dance 2.0, because the idea is more like to circulate the books, so to move the books around. So then you will
See.
find it in some spots, like in PAF we have a lot, and then in other spots like in the impulse dance when they do it, or in some venues you will have some of those books. An idea that is just to move the books around, right? So yeah, maybe that without like extending that much. And then specifically what I invite Naoto to read was an essay written by Daniel what's his last name, I want to pronounce it well, Daniel Banga Gubai. It's somebody, I won't consider him my friend, but somebody that I know from dancing in Belgium context. Um,
So you're actually like you know each other in a
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. He was the director. Now he's the current director of like there is this festival in Belgium called the Kunsten Festival des Arts. Uh, and then the idea is, I mean, that means in a way that festival, in my perception, is like maybe the one big format or the only big format that Belgium has since maybe, I don't know, could be maybe 10 years on the state of the art of performances. Because I mean, a part of that now is catching up. But I would remember them when I came the first time to the Impulse Dance, which was in 2000, I guess 13. When I came there for the first time, I remember that I was shocked, maybe 13, 14. I was shocked to see like the way how people dance. Because for me, like I come from like the Belgium school of dancing, or I thought that, I mean, when I came to Belgium, I trained myself under that atmosphere, which is very physical, through like David Zambrano a lot, and and which those are more like really physical responses to, and it has to be a lot with motion. So there's not too much political atmosphere in that. It's just body wise, and which was Belgium was famous for it in the 90s and the 2000s, with these companies like Ultima Vez and
Hmm.
Les Valets de la V. Yeah, they have different expressions of that. What is very body wise, like movement. So then when I go to the impulse dance thing, and then I start seeing this, for me, I thought like that's not dance, you know. And I got very conflicted with that by this thing. And then it took me a while, like kind of like catching up, you know, like what is this performance thing? What does it mean? And then Daniel now is the current director since 2 years ago of this festival. That was the only one who kind of allowed Belgium to think in that direction.
Hmm.
Uh, that's the yeah. And before that, there was one school uh, that addresses, I guess, systematically trying to see dance as more as political framework, or let's say more as an expanded field. This book pretty much it speaks as a dance, or see dance as an expanded field, not where the body happens sometimes, but not always necessarily. And then there is this school, this call from the Beaux-Arts, that is the institution of the arts in, like, main institution in Brussels, very well supported. And then they have the School of Arts of Beaux-Arts, and in different fields. And one of those careers that you can follow in the High Institute of Arts, which is Beaux-Arts in Belgium, was I don't remember exactly, but I think it's ISAC, that I think it stands for Instituto Superior. I don't know. ISAC, Instituto Superior of Choreography and Arts, or something like this in French. And it's studies of really into choreography. So you go there to you can study more choreography, not dance, let's say. Um, and Daniel was the one who proposed. I think I don't know if he created, but I know he was like leading. He was the director of that school for a few years. And then since 2 years ago, they proposed to him, like, do you want to take part of this Kunsten Festival, which was managed by this old person, and I mean an old couple in Belgium before, and then in this order to try to move things around, to give more motion to institutions and more air, they called Daniel, and they spread the co-direction of the festival, instead of one person, in three.
Hmm.
Daniel and other two. And yeah, so that's the long introduction about Daniel and the context of what is where he comes from, where he stands.
Yeah.
And so the text was called "The Movement as a Living Non-Body," which was an essay, and that I propose now to to read it and to maybe talk a little bit about it.
It's funny because I was really surprised when you said the title of the chapter, the movement as living non-body. That doesn't didn't really like I couldn't really immediately relate to the content because I know that it is about it, but living non-body, it sounds really strange, alien from the content itself.
Mm, I see.
It's just a random comment, but was I thought it's funny. Hmm. Because it didn't really say anything about the movement as living non-body, because the movement is emancipated from the body or whatever, but it's not well, it's living entity in itself. But
Mm,
if they say living non-body is like denying the body, right? I mean, it is
yeah.
partially denying the body, but I think it's the emphasis is not there. I feel I don't
Like,
know.
you mean the title? You mean the title itself is not corresponding to the content?
It's corresponding, but in a slightly different way. Like there's a slight
Mm.
how do I say offset or discrepancy or whatever, because this non-body is really like living non-body is like such a strong statement, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I see why you say that. Yeah, I think like.
And well, anyways, I didn't really read it thoroughly, so I maybe he was actually saying that it's a living non-body, but like the story is it's not about anyways, I'm just keep repeating. Um, yeah, and I have to say I didn't really enjoy reading it. I don't know how it was for you.
I think, I mean, maybe the thing is that I have this interview. I mean, it's not an interview, but it's always end up being like me talking a lot about myself with when I talk to Olivia. She's a creator and a friend of mine, Brazilian Belgium, and she follows up my work since maybe many years. And from time to time, we catch up. And then in a way, it's such a beautiful exercise for me, because then I have to go make sense of what I have been doing, and that's what she knows. And then sometimes she gives this feedback, very concrete, about like what might be interesting. And then as part of one of the remarks, when I was talking to her about what we do and what I do as well for my final work, that is very related to what we do, um, that then she proposed like, okay, because basically I was expressing to her this idea of like, that it became clear to me as I expressed it to you in the previous chat, that I feel that although I was happy with the composition and the flow that we get, that we were in the flow, I feel that I was lacking vocabulary to give agency to the elements, how I call them, to become what they need to become. While yet I clearly in a way see for myself, okay, this is happening, like the elements are becoming alive, like I want them, I really want to agency them to a fully extent. And so I was expressing this frustration, and then she said like, okay, you know what maybe this chapter of this book. And so it was a surprise because she just mentioned that, and I told her, yeah, this book was written here, by the way, by Daniel. So that's why that's the context of from where it comes, that text. So I was reading the text, and already I read it in the past, so this is the second time I read it. I have to say, the first time I read it, I guess I passed through things very fast.
Mm.
I did it 1 year ago, I guess. I just read it because I know him, so I wanted just to check what he says.
Mm.
But now, because it was very concrete, I have an intention in a well towards the text, what I was expecting to get out of it. It was a nice reading. So I did it like slow. Yeah, I did it into 2 takes. It's not a really long text, but it's still I did it in 2 takes, and it was nice. I mean, I enjoyed the text myself, although, yeah, there were. I mean, it's true. I guess that at some points he doesn't go really deep, maybe into. At some point, I think he was mentioning. No, wait. Maybe just like we can just frame change the direction. Maybe you said at some point that you were not sharing some ideas, and from a Western point of view, when I think you sent me a message, you said like that
Oh
there
yeah,
was something. So maybe
yeah,
if you can expand in this regard, will be interesting. We can catch from there.
yeah. So I don't know, like this is just like impression, but basically like what I feel about this is, so basically he says there's movement and the body, and I think he wants to say that the movement doesn't depend on the body in a way, that movement can be in itself, which actually
Yeah.
is like what Martin says actually,
Yeah.
like it's similar to the post dance thing.
Mhm.
Although I think the difference is like Martin has really more elaborate examples or metaphors, like the museum, which I really like. When the paintings enjoy themselves the most, and that's the when the museums are closed, or
Right.
the most beautiful paint is in the bucket or something like that. But I think it's a bit um, rough, or it's a bit too naive in this text. Like there's something about, I'm just like going through Muybridge and what's the other one? Etienne Jules Marie. I don't know how to pronounce that. This is what it's called, not stop motion, but the this
The one
picture
that is
like
more done frame by frame.
frame by frame, or like one is like superimposed, overlapping on a single image, which I I don't know. This was really, to me, to be honest, it was really disappointing because it didn't really make sense to me. And like also the example of like repeating the same movement, and then there was a moment that someone else would repeat the same movement exactly, which I think is very, I don't know how to say, it's very naive assumption that like we talked yesterday, but I don't believe that it's possible to repeat the same movement, because the bodies keep changing, and like others, like between like different people, of course the body is different. So just
Right.
to, how do I say, um, abstracting the movement from the body is really, in that sense, it's really naive. And also, uh, how did I want to say? I forgot. But I feel this is like really from like a Western perspective, that somehow, um, like human centered, and in a way
Yeah.
it's giving birth to the movement from the perspective of the human. And it's not really like the movement doesn't really, it's still actually, it actually harnesses the movement to the language and the human through this text. And it's not liberating from the body. That's what I felt really awkward to read.
Can you repeat that, the last sentence that you said?
Oh, if I can. No, that yeah, because of like how he's framing with the words, the ideas is actually making the movement more dependent to the human, because
Yeah. Okay, I see.
I don't know why, but that
Yeah.
really felt like the movement cannot be by itself. Maybe it's liberated from the body, but it's still attached to the human perception or human brain or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean.
And
Hmm.
that was really, like, I felt it was, well, I would say it was interesting with the example of what was it again, New Zealand, um,
Ah, yeah, the Phantasma. The Phantasma, I think it was called Phantasma.
yeah, I'm trying to find it. So basically that's like, what is it called,
When
from
he
this
talked about God,
Maori,
yeah,
uh,
and
I don't know how
I
do you
know it.
pronounce it, Papa Tuanuku.
I know it's differently. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
uh,
Yeah, I don't know. Papa Tuanuku.
yeah,
This practice in.
investigates the perception of life beyond the human being.
Yeah,
And that's like, I felt like that's really like, it's really just the surface of the idea that he's
yeah,
trying
I see.
to catch, and it didn't really go deeper, which was, like, I was disappointed, but I was also, I thought it's interesting that, like, how he, well, I don't know, I would say, I don't want to say how he failed to use this reference, but, well, to me it was like a fail, and that was interesting how
Yeah, I see.
it
Like,
failed.
yeah, it felt incomplete. Yeah, but in general, I will say that the text is yeah, it feels incomplete
Mm.
because it's weird to have this assumption. Like. So coming from, for instance, from an indigenous perspective, which is in a way similar to the in a New Zealand, how they portray. I mean, they don't separate things, right? So things are just one thing. And actually, if you go farther, even you don't even think, like you don't really do like a really rational process of trying to get to knowledge that's concrete, like in indigenous perspective, there is not such a search actively trying to achieve knowledge. Knowledge is something that it comes to you or not, and it's just something that, yeah, it's so the perception is different
Mm.
in that sense, like trying to grasp like one with a Western perspective when trying to understand with good spirit, like because the text, for instance, or the approach I have been reading about these days, this book about You Be My Body for Me, is a correspondence between Judith Butler and Catherine Malabou, when they talk about Hegel and the phenomenology of the spirit. And it's very interesting, how they go, and they really try to put it in the body context. And it's very interesting because they talk very much, they give a lot of agency trying to understand how where is the body in that relation, what is the body in Hegel's work, which apparently I didn't know, but apparently in a way he doesn't really speak about what is the body. He goes a lot about objects, but he's not really clear about the body. And so they from like from the performance perspective, is very yeah, it's like a curious, very it gives a lot of windows that are not being fulfilled from a choreographic or a dance practitioner, let's say. So they have this text very specific about approaching the body. And then what I found, I think that's the whole point that I was trying to connect then, is that although the intention is very interesting in the way how they try to go through that, trying to understand what he says about the body. So they do a whole analyze, very rational, and they try to define categories of how to define what is my body, what is not my body, how to multiply in between my consciousness and my body, and like a lot of gymnastics of this sense in order to try to understand, to try to define basically what is something and what is not. Um, then it, because of the nature of the analyze and the rationalization of the Western perspective, it ends up taking a position,
Mm.
which is very open. It's fair to say, because it still is open. The way how they said is yes, but no. But still, it has this approach which is very rational. So I was saying that because it's in relation to what you said, like, from the, I don't know if when you mentioned like that the, that the text of Daniel feels very from a Western perspective, like these assumptions are from a Western perspectivism.
Yeah, and especially I'm really sensitive to it, just because this is going to be like a long story about like politics. Well, it's not really long. It's just that I like how I feel like I was taught in Japan is really like westernized, probably because after we lost the Second World War, I think it really changed. And like until recent, well, I think it really helped for me to do like movement practices and like martial arts to understand that Japan, like Japanese education, is really like influenced by the westernized way of thinking. Like at one point I really remember in elementary school, like the our teacher was asking us like which part of the body, like where you have your uh, not the heart, like where you feel stuff, or feel emotions.
Mm.
And then she clearly said it's in our brain. And that was like really, like, as a I don't know how old I was, like 10 years old or something, and I really felt uncomfortable. But like the whole society is like trying to think that way, that we have our brain that's operating ourselves. um, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's not like that traditionally. And also, like, if I look into martial arts, I was practicing aikido for some years, and that's really about it's about the body and mind. And yeah, that's so but anyways, aikido is actually not that old. It only has like 100 years probably, like, of history. But what I wanted to say is, I mean, that's like, I think there's like some connection to contemporary dance, somatic practices. And from that perspective, like that's like my background. So when I look at, like, read text like this, then I really feel like how they are feeling their bodies, they are, like how they're um, perceiving the movements, bodies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is something that I have here, I guess, since always in PAF is um I think what is more interesting is like how can that should be part of like the symmetry, like symmetry group. There's this group that I follow every 2 weeks, and it's part of the things in PAF, trying to understand like asymmetries in general, how things are working, and basically oppression towards one group and the other one. Because one of the things that I have like common to more peace in a way is like, of course, like because I go and follow this group and I'm the only person who is not white, let's say. Then at the beginning I was feeling like, wow, okay, this is just, it was a lot in between myself and it was just sometimes like, oh, what I'm doing here, but it was a lot of trying to in defining many things. So it was difficult to not take it personal when you talk about these things in the
Mm.
beginning. I'm trying to share is that in time, what I realize it is more important is that how can I in somehow find a way to as much as possible, because it's normal. If they're gonna start speaking about, I don't know, people of color, then I will feel it touches me, so but as much as possible, then how can, instead of getting how can I overcome the hurt, how can I overcome the hurt from being framed, or categorized in certain way or speak in certain way, and then just try to actually doing the exercise of helping the group because they have the good intention. What is the good intention over? Uh, um, while still accepting that sometimes I'm just pissed off and then I just express my things and then I do it in the group. Um,
Yeah, I I don't know how to continue. I feel like we have to run to the backstage.
No, I mean,
Because I
I think
start.
it's totally okay. I mean, depends what you want to say, but
Yeah, I mean, it's just like very. Yeah, I hear you, and this is like also one of the yeah. Let's say I have similar um struggles, and maybe we can talk about it later, because it's just I just start to um no, this is not constructive to say. So but I totally agree with you, and but it's just
it's
not
a
possible
difficult
to
exercise. I think it's
take
a
it.
very difficult exercise. So, I mean, I found that it's very difficult for me to not get pissed off when in a way, I feel that there are things they're saying that are not right, or even going farther, that they have no right to even say it. Um,
Yeah, sorry, I have to stop this now, because it's not really nice to say it, especially when I'm recording. But anyways, so going back to the book. Well, we are talking about the book, written by white people. Well, not all white people, I guess, but edited by a white guy.
yeah.
Um, okay, so what should we take from this chapter? Um, but I think I don't know. It's a reference to me, and it's good to know, like, this Maori um, people in indigenous people in New Zealand, like how they, I mean, I think I need to read a little bit more about them, if that's interesting. But yeah, but originally, like, why did you suggest this book? Because you thought about, like, you said something about extrapolating to our practice, or like the
Because
technological
I
part.
thought it was I thought it was um I thought in a way maybe I couldn't express myself very well when I expressed my frustration regards what was happening in the last practice in the last time. I mean, well, while we were doing a thing that was good. I mean, in a way that it fell in the flow. So I think it was in regards to trying to express part. Yeah, I was saying to extrapolate part of that because of the way how um, yeah, basically this I guess idea to trying to give agency to the elements. Basically, I think that in a way is partly he speaks about that. I mean,
What are the elements, for
the
example?
element is anything that that I will have while we do the practice. So one element is the internet, the other element is my body, but maybe the element might be just my hand at a certain point. So it's a constant and that's actually it's interesting because it's getting clear from the text that I read about Hegel, and there's a constantly grouping and ungrouping yeah, constantly grouping and ungrouping things. So sometimes an element will be my body, but sometimes an element might be just my hand, and sometimes an element will be the windows of VDMX floating around. Sometimes an element will be, so it's like the constant definition of what are the elements and the composition of those elements live while in the practice.
Hmm, I see. Um, that
I think at some
really,
point, I mean, I'm using these words, but if you go back in chat, because I was doing this exercise some days ago, that I was mentioning that is what I in the past when I spoke about the constraints. I don't know if you remember this at some point as well in Node. I was sometimes trying to say like I spoke about constraints or limitations in the same sense how I see the elements. What are those elements that I want to know they are for me to play with them?
um, I'm trying to find what I want to say. No, because this grouping and ungrouping was really interesting in terms of like autistic perception that we have problems, well, not problem, but or difficulties. That's still a problem. But like recognizing object as an object that um, it affords things beyond an object. Like if I don't know what's a good example, but like how you just when there's a door, it's just that you label it as a door, but it's like it's like continues to the walls or the floor, and it's just like a really arbitrary thing that you say it's a door, and you lean on the door or you open the door. It doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want with it, but somehow I think from neurotypical like non-autistic point of view, you think that as an object and you use it to open or close, to enter or leave. Let's say when there's a door, but you don't think really about leaning on a door or using it in a different way. um and that's like one is the function of the object, but also like the where to separate the object from other things. So that's like we're like constantly dealing with the grouping and ungrouping in a way.
Mm.
And I was just like thinking about what text there was something written about it, so maybe I can send it to you later.
Mhm.
But and actually that's something I was also like before you said it. I thought it's also interesting in general, like when we work with elements, because that's really arbitrary elements that we say. I mean, there's nothing like internet. It's just like we uh, we say that it's the internet, but it's just connected network.
Right.
And what is a network? Or like we can just go deeper into um, things like that. And also like ultimately like we can also question what is the body, like what's the boundary of the body and non-body. If you think like let's say my hair is part of my body, but if it's cut off, then
Mhm.
it's I don't know if it's still in my body or not. So
Mhm.
these like little things, well, not, but it's little, but it's actually really critical. And
Mm.
to me, it's really interesting to work with the computer because that can be a way to blend ourselves to the computer or the whatever digital thing, code, um, anything, because I see you on the screen but it's not you. It's just the image of you. And but
Mm.
I assume that you are there and it's not like, you know, like a
Mm.
AI generated person, which could be possible these days,
Yeah.
but
Wait, I need to pee very fast, but the toilet is here, so
yeah, I'm gonna just pause.
okay.
Okay.
So then, yeah, I wanted to say like that. Um, then in my analyze of things, I remember then I think I have shared this already. In regards to when we speak about grouping, ungrouping things, it's like something that I guess in a way comes in this idea of like having an ontological process towards the interfaces and like defining what are the interfaces at certain point, what are not. So this grouping and ungrouping are related with this idea of what I like to think about. Um, yeah, an ontological process defining constantly what are the elements, what is the nature of the elements. So it's an ontological process towards the interfaces in one hand. And the other thing I wanted to say was this idea of construction and deconstruction of the body, which is related yet different, or more, I would say more in depth on the elements. This idea of the construction of deconstruction of what we understand as the body is, and that happens in the practice. And I think that was one of the things that I was sharing with Olivia is one of the beautiful things that happens from the beginning when we start using Hydra and feedbacks, when we were like really uh, feeding many times the process. At some point my hand was lost in some place, so it was a very nice um, finding in a really early stage while using feedbacks with this moving in front of the screen, of the construction and deconstruction of the body. You know, like my body got completely deconstructed in the feedback, and then you do something, and then there's glitches more, and then it comes back to me, and it becomes super iterative, this process. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly why you said it, but like like before, like I said about, yeah, I talk with you as a, you know, image on the screen or pixels, but then we work with, you know, glitches and, you know, modifying the images, which is really interesting because like this is the only way how I perceive you, like through the screen, but we're like keep changing it, modifying it, and it's not just about adding effects. That's like these days I really like conscious and really yeah, like aware of like how I describe Hydra, because we're not making effects. Um, but we can easily see that it's, you know, adding like visual effects, but it's not visual effects. But what is it? I don't know what's the good word to it, because I think the original idea of Hydra was like video synthesis, like analog like video synthesis. But I think it's, for me, or like I think it got somewhere beyond, or, you know, like different from that. And it's not just different, it's not just adding effects, but then what is this?
Right.
And I think this is something new that doesn't exist yet.
Mm. Yeah,
Wow,
I think what it,
that's, yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was just thinking like, wow, like this is like something I think I have been thinking, but I never put into words. But now I did, and I'm really happy that I can finally say that I don't know what Hydra is.
Yeah, but it's true because I think what it makes it that makes it beautiful is that, so the intention of Hydra, and when you read what Olivia put is like when she describes it, is an attempt to have like a visual synthesizer, right? And I think because in our context the practice starts from the body. I mean, we want to move, then because the body is a political entity, then it's just already at the moment that you start putting the body in the image and then start doing more things like constructing deconstructing these, it just changes complete, it becomes something different.
Yeah,
It gives a different space than just glitching, creating bj loops or other imaginary.
yeah, totally. Should we go to the backstage?
Yeah, I
Should we
think
close? Yeah,
that if there is nothing left, then just we can say
yeah.
thank you to
So no,
everyone.
well, I'm glad that I can now. I have the confusion, and we can work on it or not work on it.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for watching. I don't
Please
know.
subscribe. Like us, we like us, please.